The twin suns of Veritas Prime sank low on the horizon, spilling bruised purples and bleeding crimsons across the sky. Beneath this alien twilight, the scorched dunes stretched endless, an ocean of glassy sand shaped by relentless acid winds. High above, the salvager skiff Artemis drifted in silent vigil, its ion stabilizers humming a soft counterpoint to the howling gusts below. Inside the cockpit, Captain Zara Draycock tapped impetuously on her wrist holo console. The display glowed, with scans, hull sections buried 5 meters deep, energy readings flickering between dormant and unstable. Around her, the deckhands lounged on creaking crates, swapping holovids of glamour worlds and corporate sponsors. They paid little heed to the brooding wreck protruding from the dunes below, and even less to the lone figure kneeling at its base. Jorlin Crankvoss had been at this for hours. Graying dreadlocks fell across his oil-smudged brow. His weathered flight suit was streaked with rust and sand, yet there was a steadiness to his movements, a surgeon's precision. As he brushed away layers of crystalline dust from the ancient hatch of the ISV Horus, each sweep of his hydrophobic cloth revealed the ship's original luster. Plaques of electrochromatic alloy etched with starboard iconography, runes that spoke of voyages beyond known space. A dozen feet away, the deckhands snickered. One of the Academy recruits, bright-eyed cadet Lennox, leaned forward, grinning. "Look at him," Captain Lennox called. "He's worshipping that junk like it's some lost god. Should we just slice it up with the plasma torches and haul it home?" Zira's lips curled. "That's the plan, kid. We salvage the super alloy, sell it to the highest bidder, and move on. He's been at it since dawn, wasting time while credit ticks by." She flicked her wrist. "Artemis, authorized plasma cutter run. 3 minutes." But Jorlin did not pause. He closed his eyes, placing both hands on the hatch's cold surface. His breath slowed. He began to murmur in the tongue of the starboard, a whisper of consonants, older than the broken nebulae themselves. Around him, the discarded cables and fractured actuator plates trembled as though stirred by an unseen pulse. At the edge of the skiff's landing pad, Sue Marlowe, the ship's youngest engineer, rubbed her temples. She had followed Crank's lead ever since they'd left orbital, hoping to learn something more than corporate protocols. "You really think there's a ship left under all that rust?" she asked rhetorically, folding her arms. Jorlin opened his eyes, their blue irises reflecting the last rays of the suns. "Every ship has a heartbeat," he said softly. "You just have to know where to listen." Below, the Horus's dorsal fuselage creaked. A faint glow bloomed behind the hatch's seals, amber tendrils of light that lit the sand. Zara strode down the gangway, boots clanking on the metal grating. "Enough of your mysticism," she barked. "We don't have centuries to excavate a rust bucket. Plasma cutters on my mark." He neither flinched nor looked up. Instead, Jorlin tightened his grip and whispered a final phrase. The hatch hissed and swung outward, revealing a cockpit preserved as if in a dream. No sand had infiltrated its channels. No corrosion had eaten away its panels. Holographic schematics floated in the dusty air, still cycling through diagnostic loops for a heartbeat, time suspended. The deckhands stared, slack-jawed. The skiff's floodlights illuminated row upon row of glassy controls. Backlit by the ghostly glow of the ship's dormant core, a crystalline heart nestled at the center, pulsing with a pale inner light. Zara swallowed. "I don't believe it," she whispered, stepping forward. Heat deferred by astonishment ran down her spine. "How did you?" With deliberate calm, Jorlin rose. He dusted his hands on his suit and looked each of them in the eye. "You mocked me for cleaning." He paused, letting the word settle. But cleaning revealed what others only saw as scrap. This ship isn't just hull and frame, it's a mind, a navigator of old worlds. A gust of desert wind rattled the cockpit. Tiny motes of glowing dust drifted through the air, as though stirred from centuries of slumber. Suen hesitated, then stepped forward, running a fingertip along a holo-projected star chart. "These constellations, they're gone from modern nav databases," she breathed. "Then ours is the first expedition to find them in 1,000 years, Jorlin said, voice low. He turned back to the hatch. "Prepare winch lines. We're taking her aboard." Amid the last light of day, the Artemis crew moved with newfound purpose, arms braced against rusted struts. winch cables snaking across the dunes like silver serpents. Jorlin remained at the wreck's entrance, staring into the dormant cockpit as though greeting an old friend. The last rays of the twin suns vanished, and in the artificial light of the skiff's hololamps, the Horus waited, its heart ready to beat again. High above, the ion stabilizers whined into full power. The desert's hush deepened, broken only by the skeletal hull's awakening creaks, and in that charged silence, every lingering doubt was swept away, replaced by the thrill of discovery. Beneath the mockery and the corrosion lay a legend begging to speak once more. A jolt of static ran through the Horus as the last winch cable snapped tight, hoisting the ancient hull clear of Viridis Prime's glassy sands. Below, the dunes whispered away, leaving only imprint scars in their wake. A hush fell over the Artemises. Decca's thrusters bled off, and the salvager skiff's cranes eased the hulk onto reinforced plating. Electrical arcs crackled from winch housings. The men and women of the crew braced, half expecting rusted beams to splinter like bone. Inside the Horus, Jorlin Voss stood at the threshold of the cockpit, the amber glow of dormant consoles illuminating his lined features. He felt the ship shiver beneath his boots, a tremor of recognition, as though the hull itself sighed in relief. Beside him, Sue and Marlowe's eyes reflected the holodiagrams dancing in midair, star charts, system blueprints, diagnostic runes rendered in impossible geometries. Careful with the power feed. Jorlin called to Suin, voice low but urgent. These capacitors haven't seen a stable current in centuries. She nodded, hands flying over her wrist console. A soft hiss sounded as she rerouted auxiliary lines through the Artemis's fusion cells. The cockpit flickered once, twice, and then life bled back into the Horus's veins. Panels glowed, fans chattered, and sparks blossomed along the main power bus. For an instant, all lights went out, then returned at full brilliance, revealing the cockpit's true magnificence. Rows of crystalline nodes arched with ionized silver, each one carved with strands of the Starburn script. The central core, the ship's heart, pulsed, bathing the cabin in a soothing pulse of gold. Lines traced themselves along bench consoles, illuminating storage bays, weapon lockers. Life support ducts, holograms blossomed overhead, projecting rotating schematics of engines, graviton conveyors, and warp field chambers. Zara Draycock peered through the hatch, arms crossed. You can't bring her fully online without risking overload. Her tone blended skepticism and fear. Jorlin smiled thinly. There's risk in every venture, Captain, but these systems know me. He slipped off his visor and tucked it into his belt, revealing dark eyes that gleamed with something close to reverence. They remember the one who built them. With a careful hand, he placed his palm onto the heart-shaped core. The air around him crackled as he spoke a muted phrase in the tongue of the Starburn. Dust motes lifted in spirals, caught in the choreography of renewed winds coming through restored vents. Under his touch, tendrils of energy snaked outward, and the ship's diagnostic readouts scrolled in cascading columns of iridescent data. Below deck, the deckhands peered in through the open doorway. Lennox rubbed his jaw. Are those memories? He murmured to Suin. I don't know, she replied, transfixed. But if they are, they're sentient. Jorlin withdrew his hand and stepped back. Core integrity at 98%. We can proceed. His fingers flew over a sequence of crystalline switches, each one igniting a different subsystem. Thrusters hummed, defenses hummed, and something in the ship's frame thrummed like a living heartbeat. Environmental tests, Suin announced. Atmospheric scrubbers online. Thermal regulators nominal. She tapped her console again. But I'm reading displacement fields. The warp conduits, there's a loop that's active but not tuned. Jorlin nodded, eyes closing for a moment. He inhaled deeply and exhaled as though drawing power from the very atmosphere. Let's bring the Navarre online. I want Starline readings. He keyed another command. Across the cockpit, the front viewport shimmered, and then projected outward, a three-dimensional vista of stars, nebulae, and dark voids. Dozens of nodes glowed red, yellow, and green, each a waypoint, a relay station or a forgotten jump gate. To Zira's astonishment, one node pulsed emerald, Carcosa Gateway. How she whispered, Carcosa is legend. Legend built on truth, Jorlin corrected gently. He swiped at the holochart, isolating the Carcosa marker, 1,000. Years ago, the Horus charted this course. The gatekeeper flagged it as active, waiting for the right soul to awaken her. His palm tingled, the core's pulse synchronized with his own. I was that soul. A tremor passed through the deck. Floodlights overhead flickered, cascading shadows across the dunes outside. The thrusters of the Artemis responded as the hulk settled into its cradle. Below, Zara ordered winches to hold steady. They dared not risk a jolt now. Memory logs, Suan said, tapping her console. I'm pulling fragments, captain's logs, crew manifests, tether sequences. Wait, here's something. She expanded a data file. The last entry, recorded by Lieutenant Mayra. Her breath caught. She mentions a catastrophe, a rogue warp pulse that tore through the midsection, killing 93 souls. But she believed it could be reversed. Jorlin's jaw tightened. They were experimenting with a quantum reflex drive-and-tested technology. They sought to outrun the black storms. It went catastrophically wrong. He closed his eyes as, though recalling a distant night, I tried to save them. Suan's voice fell to a whisper. You were on the Horus before? He nodded slowly. I was chief systems architect. I designed her core. When the pulse hit, I stayed behind to stabilize the flux conduits. It was my fault the Horus never made it back. Silence filled the cockpit. Outside, the dunes glimmered under artificial lights. The crew exchanged uneasy looks, realizing the old mechanic they'd mocked had once been the mastermind. Behind this legendary vessel and may have paid a price for it. Zara finally spoke. Her voice soft. You never told us, because you never asked. He replied, eyes fixed on the floating star map. Now, she's chosen to speak again. Her heart remembers mine, and I intend to keep my promise, to pilot her beyond the black storms, to the gateway. He reached out to the main console, tapping in override codes. The Horus's engines glowed a deeper amber, with a low rumble. The ship vibrated, no longer a corpse, but a sentient vessel. Awakened from its tomb, the ancestral hum of ancient machinery stitched itself into a new song, a chorus of promise and redemption. And as the Artemis crew watched, the great hulk lifted on its own power for the first time in a millennium. Its amber thrusters painting streaks of light across the dunes. Sparks of the past had ignited the future, and with Jorlin Voss at its helm, the Horus was ready to soar once more into the star-strewn darkness. The Horus hovered above the Artemis's landing platform like a leviathan returned to life. Its amber thrusters pulsed in rhythmic beats, resonating through the salvager skiff's reinforced hull. Inside the vast hold, floodlights carved long shadows across the curved bulkheads, illuminating centuries of dust and forgotten salvage crates. Jorlin Voss, hands steady on his hips, regarded the living ship with a mixture of reverence and cautious anticipation. Around him, Zara Draycock barked orders into her comlink. Maintain power coupling at 50%. Do not overload the auxiliary circuits. The deckhands scrambled, rerouting power conduits from the Artemis's fusion core to stabilize the Horus's reawakened systems. Sparks flew as cables clattered into place, and holographic readouts flickered between green nominal and blinking amber warnings. Jorlin slipped through the open cargo bay doors and into the lower corridors of the Horus. For the first time in a millennium, his boots echoed on the polished alloy floors, and above him, the overhead strata vents exhaled with gentle whooshes of conditioned air. Grav markers once inert now glowed faintly, guiding him toward the heart of the ship. Each step stirred up a swirl of motes that danced in the shafted light, as though the ship itself exhaled dust from its crypt. At the junction of three intersecting tunnels, the hull's curves opened onto the central nexus, a cathedral-like chamber dominated by the crystalline core. The heart of the Horus hovered suspended in a magnetic cradle, radiant veins of energy snaking outward into the ship's spine. As Jorlin approached, the core's pulse quickened, synchronizing with the faint thrum of his own heartbeat. He raised a hand and spoke in the tongue of the starburn, a soft incantation reverberating in the chamber's resonance. The core responded, showering the walls in fractal sigils of light, ancient runes that shimmered and coalesced into a holographic avatar. It took the form of a slender humanoid figure, its features molded from the same translucent crystal as the core. Where eyes should have been, it bore glowing voids, and where skin should have touched, facets caught the light in fractured reflections. "I am the ghost of the Horus," the figure intoned, its voice a chorus of layered echoes. Every syllable felt woven into the ship's bones. "Gatekeeper of lost paths, keeper of starbound truth, you, Metalflow, have called me forth." Jorlin's throat tightened. "It has been too long, old friend," he whispered. "I seek forgiveness for leaving you cold and silent, and for the lives I could not save." The ghost's form shifted, and the chamber's walls projected the final moments of the ancient voyage, the warp pulse rippling through the midsection, crew stations flickering into darkness, Jorlin's own desperate hands stabilizing the conduits. He saw himself rooted to a shattered console, drenched in sweat, and watched as panicked voices pleaded through static. Then the vision stilled at the moment of rupture. "You did all you could," the ghost replied, its tone both mournful and gentle. "Your sacrifice kept the rest of the vessel from annihilation, but my mind lay dormant, awaiting the gatekeeper's return." Outside the Nexus chamber, footsteps raced down the corridor. Sue and Marlowe arrived, eyes wide with wonder. "Crank, are you seeing this?" She pointed as one of the ghost's projections scrolled past. Star routes once annotated by the Horus, leading to sectors marked Lost Worlds, Exodus fleets, and at the very edge, Carcosa Gateway. Jorlin nodded, voice hushed. "The Horus holds the keys to more than just one gate. We can resurrect her full memory core if we dare." A tremor pulsed through the ship as the Artemis's hull shifted under the combined mass of both vessels. Zira's voice crackled through Jorlin's comlink. "Your friend is overstressing our couplings. I need names on stabilizer rails." Now, he gave a quick nod to Suin, who darted back toward the hold. To relay the order, "Captain," Jorlin called, switching channels. "The ghost has awakened. She is ready to interface with your navigation systems, but we'll need time to map her full data lattice through the static." Zira allowed a reluctant respect into her tone. "You've earned that time, old mechanic, but if this ship flares out again, we cut the connection and we're jettisoning the wreck." Understanding the unspoken warning, Jorlin returned to the crystalline core. He placed both palms on its surface and murmured another invocation, this one softer, more intimate. Energy rippled through his fingertips, and the ghost's form dissolved into streams of data cascading across the Nexus walls. Holographic consoles appeared, lined with runic menus and spectral glyphs. Layers of memory unfurled, crew manifests, biosignatures, warp test logs, and the coordinates of hidden wayposts beyond any known star charts. As the data assimilation began, the ghost's voice echoed once more, fading into the hum of active consoles. "Gatekeeper, the path to Carcosa is just the beginning. Many others await rekindling." Jorlin exhaled, his breath mingling with the hum of power. "Then we have our work cut out for us," he said, voice steady with newfound purpose. Above, the Horus's thrusters adjusted, stabilizing the hulk atop the Artemis. Through the portholes, the desert world of Veridus Prime receded into the stars, the two ships, one ancient and sentient, the other scrappy and utilitarian, prepared to sail together into the unknown. And in the heart of the resurrected vessel, the ghost watched, waiting for the gatekeeper to chart their course. The amber glow of the Horus's thrusters bathed the Artemis's hold in molten gold. As the ancient ship disengaged its stabilizers and floated free, crew members clung to handrails, hearts pounding at the spectacle of a derelict born anew. Above, the rippling starfield beyond Veridus Prime's atmosphere beckoned like a tapestry of possibility. Captain Zara Draycock steadied herself against the hatch frame, awe and trepidation mingling in her gaze. Jorlin Voss stood at the helm of the Horus, his gauntleted hands resting lightly on the crystalline steering array. The ship's ghost, no longer a phantom, but woven into every circuit, flowed around him in waves of iridescent data. Holographic star maps spiraled into existence, threads of golden light tracing routes through nebulae and across the yawning black of interstellar voids. Destination, Carcosa Gateway, Jorlin announced, voice calm yet filled with resonance. He touched a rune etched into the array, and the projected course shifted. highlighting hidden jump gates and way stations that had vanished from every modern chart. Estimated time to gate alignment, 48 hours. Zara exhaled, steadying her voice. All right, gatekeeper, let's see if the legends hold true. She signaled to her engineers. Divert fusion core output, give them full jump drive. Charge and keep those drones on standby. I want visual sweep around the hull for any structural faults. As the Artemis's fusion cells bled into the Horus's ancient conduits, subtle tremors ran through the hull. The ship's veined architecture, once cold with millennia of disuse, now pulsed with living energy. Jorlin felt the resonance in his bones, as if the vessel and its gatekeeper shared a single heartbeat. Down in the engineering bay, Sue Marlowe oversaw a recalibration of the quantum reflex drive. Her eyes gleamed with excitement when the cores readout stabilized. Stress levels nominal. Captain, she reported. She's holding together better than I ever imagined. She tapped a console, and the corridor lights along the Horus flared in sequence, a welcome beacon for the entire crew. Above them, the viewport rippled as the ship's inertial dampeners engaged. Stars stretched into lines of white as the Horus built toward its first jump in centuries. Zara exhaled a long breath and gripped the combing beside Jorlin. You ready for this? She asked quietly. He nodded, eyes fixed on the holographic portal forming ahead, a shimmering vortex suspended against the starscape. It's time to fulfill her promise. With a low, resonant hum that vibrated through every bulkhead, the Horus leaped, space folded in upon itself. Gravity wells twisting into fold space corridors only the gatekeeper could trace. A moment later, the jump gate's counterpart loomed ahead, an ancient construction of dark metal and burnt orange. Energy rings Carcosa Gateway. The portal's surface pulsed like a living membrane. Ghostly echoes of long-dead pilots seemed to swirl at its edges. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then Jorlin's voice rang out. Engage full drive. The engine core flared, its amber light flooding the cockpit. The ship shuddered as it passed through the gateway's threshold, emergent, on the other side in a void of swirling cosmic dust and distant suns. Outside, the Artemis shivered in space, but held station. Below decks, alarms chimed softly, a routine confirmation of successful transition. Suan's laughter echoed through the comms. We did it. We actually did it. Zara stared out at the vista beyond the gateway. Clusters of star systems ranged in perfect geometric patterns. Ghost ships drifting among the stars like phantoms of ancient fleets. And at the center, a nexus of light where multiple jump lanes converged. It's more beautiful than I ever dreamed, she whispered. Jorlin placed a hand on the core's crystal casing, a smile breaking across his weathered face. The Horus remembers her destiny, he said, and so do I. As the two ships hovered in the heart of the Carcosa star lanes, the crew gathered in the Horus's cathedral-like nexus. The ghost's holographic form appeared once more, its voice imbued with pride. Gatekeeper, the path ahead is uncharted. Entire star clusters await rediscovery. Exodus fleets lost to time yearn for remembrance. Will you guide them? Jorlin looked around at the faces, some young and wide-eyed, others wary but hopeful. He raised his hand and, in the tongue of the starburn, spoke a vow that echoed through every corridor. I will not abandon this ship again. Together, we awaken the lost, rekindle the forgotten, and forge new destinies among the stars. In that moment, the Horus glowed with renewed purpose. Its amber heart pulsed in harmony with Jorlin's own, and the gateway's rings flared in welcome. The voyage reborn had only just begun, and the universe awaited the gatekeeper and his living ship, ready at last to remember their names.